The iron pressed into Jalen's forearm. He smelled his own skin, burning before the pain hit. "Mommy, don't hurt us." The scream tore from his throat, raw animal desperate. But Mommy was dead. The woman holding the iron was Patricia, his stepmother, and she wasn't stopping. "Shut up," Patricia hissed, yanking his arm harder. "Shut your mouth or I'll give you something real to cry about." 6 years old, 47 pounds, alone in a house that used to smell like his mother's cinnamon candles. Now it smelled like burning flesh and fear. What Patricia didn't know, under Jalen's bed sat a worn blue box. Inside that box was a recording, his dead mother's voice, and evidence that would destroy everything. 800 miles away, his father, a police officer, had just opened an anonymous email. The photo inside made his blood freeze. Type, "Amen if you believe in protecting the innocent. Drop your city below. I want to see how far this story reaches." Patricia released his arm. Jalen collapsed backward onto the bed, clutching the burn. His vision blurred with tears. The pain screamed through his entire body, hot, pulsing alive. "Look what you made me do." Patricia's voice was calm, flat, like she'd just spilled coffee instead of branded a child. "If you'd given me the box like I asked, this wouldn't have happened." Jalen couldn't speak. His throat had closed around the sobs fighting to escape. Patricia smoothed her robe, adjusted her hair, became someone else in the span of 3 seconds, composed, irritated, blameless. "You moved," she said. "That's what happened. You moved when you shouldn't have. Clumsy. Just like your mother." She picked up her wine glass from the dresser. "If anyone asks if your father asks, you touch the iron yourself. Understand?" Jalen pressed his burned arm against his chest, rocking slightly. "I said, do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am." The words came out broken. Automatic. He'd learned which answers kept him safe. Patricia studied him for a long moment. Her eyes dropped to the blue box that had fallen beside him on the mattress. "Tomorrow," she said quietly, "you're going to give me that box. Whatever your mother hid in there, I'm going to find it, and then we're going to have a conversation about what happens to little boys who keep secrets." She turned and walked out. The door clicked shut. Jalen waited, counted her footsteps down the stairs, heard her bedroom door close at the end of the hallway. Then he let himself fall apart. The sobs came in waves, silent, shaking, suffocating. He buried his face in his pillow to muffle the sound. His arm throbbed with every heartbeat. The skin was already blistering, angry red, fading to white at the edges. "Mama, Mama, Mama." He called for her in his mind over and over, like maybe if he wished hard enough she'd answer. Maybe she'd walk through the door with her warm hands and soft voice and make everything okay again. But the door stayed closed. His mother was in the cemetery 3 miles away. He'd only been there once. Patricia said it was morbid for children to visit graves. Jalen was alone, completely terrifyingly alone. The tears slowed, not because the pain stopped, but because something else pushed through, something harder. He looked at the blue box beside him. His mother had left him this. Patricia wanted it badly enough to hurt him. That meant it mattered. Jalen wiped his face with his good hand and pulled the box into his lap. The handkerchief lay folded on top, soft worn at the edges, still holding the faint ghost of his mother's lotion. He pressed it to his face and breathed in. For 1 second, she was there, right there with him. Then the smell faded, and he was alone again. Beneath the handkerchief lay the card. Jalen knew every word by heart. His mother had written them 3 days before she died, sitting in her hospital bed with tubes in her arms and that tired smile she wore at the end. "My beautiful boy," the card began. "I will love you forever and always. Remember that Mama is proud of you. Remember that you are stronger than you know." He'd read those words 100 times. They'd made him cry every time. But tonight, something else caught his attention. Between the lines of his mother's handwriting were tiny marks he'd never noticed before. Stars, dots, little slashes tucked into the spaces like punctuation that didn't belong. Jalen tilted the card toward his lamp. The marks weren't random. They were placed too carefully, too deliberately. He remembered something. A rainy Saturday 8 months ago. His mother had been feeling good that day, one of her good days before the bad ones took over completely. She'd sat him at the kitchen table with paper and colored pencils, teaching him a game. Words can hide, she'd said, drawing symbols between lines of text. Sometimes you have to look sideways to see them. She'd shown him how letters could be disguised as shapes, how dots and dashes could spell secrets, how you could write something only one person would understand. Why would someone hide words? Jalen had asked. His mother's smile had flickered, just for a moment. Sometimes, baby, you have to protect the truth until the right person is ready to hear it. Jalen hadn't understood then. He was starting to understand now. He grabbed the flashlight from his nightstand, the one Daddy had given him during a blackout last winter. His fingers trembled as he clicked it on. The beam swept across the card. Jalen tilted the paper sideways the way his mother had taught him. The symbols shifted, aligned, became something else. His lips moved silently, working through the code one letter at a time. V, I, N, C, E, N, T. His heart pounded. I, S, N, O, T. The message emerged from the marks like a ghost rising from still water. Vincent is not to be trusted. Write everything down. Jalen read it again, and again. His mother hadn't just left him a goodbye. She'd left him a warning. Vincent. Jalen whispered the name into the dark room. He didn't know any Vincent. Had never heard his parents mention someone by that name. But his mother had hidden this message deliberately, coded it so carefully that only Jalen, only someone who remembered the game, would find it. Why? What was she afraid of? And how had she known even before she died that Jalen would need protection? He looked at the card again, at her handwriting, at the hidden message threaded through her final words. His mother had known something dangerous, something she couldn't say out loud. And now Patricia wanted the box. Jalen's burned arm throbbed. He understood suddenly why Patricia had hurt him, why she kept asking about the box, why she looked at it like it might explode. She was afraid. Whatever his mother had hidden, Patricia was afraid of it. The answer came faster than Jalen expected. The next night, he was supposed to be asleep, but he'd learned to fake it, perfected the slow breathing, the limp limbs, the complete stillness that made adults think he wasn't listening. At 9:17 p.m., someone knocked on the front door. Jalen's eyes snapped open. Patricia's footsteps moved too fast through the hallway. The door opened. A man's voice, low and smooth, slid into the house like oil on water. "I hope I'm not intruding." Jalen was out of bed before the voice finished speaking. He crept to the top of the stairs, pressing himself against the banister, peering through the railings at the scene below. A man stood in the entryway. Tall, thin, steel gray hair, cropped military short. Everything about him was sharp. His cheekbones, his jawline, the crease in his expensive coat. His eyes moved around the room like he was calculating the value of everything in it. "Vincent?" Patricia said. "It's Christmas Eve." Vincent. The name hit Jalen like electricity. This was him, the man his mother had warned about. "Daniel isn't home," Patricia continued, stepping aside to let Vincent in. "He's still on assignment." "I know." Vincent moved past her, unbuttoning his coat with precise movements. "That's precisely why I'm here. We need to discuss the situation." "What situation?" Vincent set a leather briefcase on the kitchen table, opened it, removed a slim folder. "The insurance policy. The trust. The arrangements. He spread papers across the table, his movements deliberate. Everything tied to the child remains conditional. Funds cannot be accessed unless Daniel retains full legal guardianship. Jalen's hands gripped the banister. They were talking about him. Patricia's voice tightened. Daniel is his father. Of course he has guardianship. For now. Vincent didn't look up from the papers. But situations change. Children talk. They misinterpret things. They repeat conversations they shouldn't have heard. He's 6 years old. He doesn't understand. Understanding isn't required for damage. Vincent's eyes lifted to meet Patricia's. If the boy says the wrong thing to the wrong person, everything unravels. The trust, the policy, the discretion we've maintained. Patricia was quiet for a moment. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting you control him. No doctors they ask questions about injuries. No teachers they're mandated reporters. No friendly neighbors, no church members, no one who might take an interest. Vincent closed the folder. The child needs to be silent, completely silent, until this phase passes. And if he won't stay silent? The question hung in the air. Vincent's expression didn't change. Children can be redirected. Accidents happen. Medical records can be interpreted in many ways. He picked up his briefcase. The important thing is that we remain ahead of any complications. Jalen's whole body had gone cold. They were talking about hurting him, really hurting him, making it look like an accident. And Vincent was talking about it like he was discussing a business problem. There's another issue, Patricia said quietly. The box. Vincent stopped moving. What box? Denise left him something, a box with papers inside, I don't know exactly what. But she made him promise never to show anyone, and every time I try to take it She stopped. He fights. Something shifted in Vincent's face, a flicker of something that might have been fear. You need to get that box, he said. Tonight. Whatever she left behind? I've tried. He hides it, clings to it like, I don't care how you do it. Vincent's voice hardened. Denise was careless. She asked questions. She documented things. If she left evidence with that child... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Patricia nodded slowly. I'll handle it. See that you do. Vincent moved toward the door. Because if this falls apart, we both lose everything. And I don't intend to lose. The door closed behind him. Jalen didn't move. Couldn't move. His mother had documented things. That's what Vincent said. She'd asked questions. She'd found something bad enough that Vincent and Patricia were willing to hurt a 6-year-old to hide it. And now that evidence was hidden in Jalen's bedroom. He crept back to his room on silent feet. His mind was racing. His burned arm ached. His whole body trembled with fear and something else, something sharper. His mother had known. She'd known about Vincent. Known about the danger. Known somehow that she wouldn't be there to protect Jalen herself. So she'd left him tools, the coded message, the box. Write everything down. Jalen pulled his notebook from the nightstand drawer, the one with the chipped unicorn on the cover, pages filled with crayon drawings and wobbly letters. He turned to a blank page. His hand shook as he gripped the pencil. December 23rd. He wrote at the top the way his teacher had taught him. Then slowly, carefully, Vincent came to the house tonight. He talked to Patricia about money and me. He said I need to be silent. He said accidents happen. He said children can be redirected. The words looked small on the page, childish, but they were true. Jalen kept writing. Patricia wants Mama's box. She burned my arm trying to get it. I didn't give it to her. He paused, added one more line. Mama said Vincent is not to be trusted. Mama was right. He closed the notebook and slid it under his mattress, right where the frame dipped lowest. His mother had told him to write everything down. He was going to listen. Under his bed, tucked beside the dusty baseboards, the blue box held one more secret. Jalen had forgotten about it until now, or maybe he'd been too afraid to look. But his mother's coded message had said, "Write everything down," which meant she'd expected there to be more. More to document, more to discover. He pulled the box out and lifted the handkerchief aside. Beneath the card, pressed against the bottom of the box, was something small and black. A recorder. Jalen recognized it. His mother had used it sometimes, pressing the red button and speaking into it when she was too tired to write in her journal. "This is for lonely nights," she'd told him once. "So you can hear my voice when you miss me." Jalen's throat tightened. He pressed play. Static. Then breathing. Then his mother's voice, warm and close. "Hey, sweet boy. If you're listening to this, then I'm not there anymore. And I'm so sorry for that. I wanted to stay. I wanted to watch you grow up and teach you to ride a bike and embarrass you in front of your friends." Jalen's eyes filled with tears. "But some things aren't up to us, baby. Some things just happen, and I need you to know whatever happens that I love you. I will always love you. Nothing can change that. Not time, not distance, not—" Her voice cut off. Shuffling. Footsteps. A door opening. Then Patricia's voice, sharp and cold. "You're still recording, God, Denise, give it a rest." "I'm leaving messages for Jalen." His mother's voice weaker now. "For when I'm gone." Morbid. Patricia's tone dripped with contempt. "Vincent says you need to stop asking questions. The lawyers are handling everything. The trust isn't right. The numbers don't." "The numbers are fine. You're paranoid because you're dying and you can't accept that someone else is going to raise your son." Silence. Then his mother's voice, quiet but steady. "If anything happens to Jalen, nothing's going to happen to him." Patricia's footsteps moved closer. "Unless you keep making trouble, then maybe something does happen. Maybe there's an accident. Maybe he falls down the stairs. Maybe—" "You wouldn't. Wouldn't I?" Patricia laughed, soft and cruel. "You're going to be dead in a month, Denise. You don't get to decide what happens after. You don't get to protect him from the grave." The recording ended with a click. Jalen sat frozen. The recorder felt like a bomb in his hands. Patricia had threatened him. Threatened his mother. Talked about hurting him before his mother even died. And his mother had recorded it. She'd known. She'd prepared. She'd hidden this evidence where only Jalen would find it, trusting that someday, somehow, he would understand. Tears streamed down his face, but he didn't make a sound. His mother had given him proof. Now, he had to protect it. 800 miles away, Marcus Jameson stood in the middle of an airport terminal with his phone pressed to his chest. The photo was burned into his brain. Jalen's face. Tears streaking his dark skin. Eyes red and swollen, mouth open in a sob. The angle wrong, too low, too calculated. Someone had positioned his son like a prop. Marcus had spent 15 years reading crime scenes. He knew staged evidence when he saw it. This wasn't a candid shot. This was a message. Your son is suffering, and you're not there. He checked the email header again. Masked routing. Anonymous server. Whoever sent this knew how to hide their tracks. But they'd made a mistake. The metadata showed a timestamp from 3 days ago. Marcus cross-referenced it against Patricia's social media. She'd posted a photo of herself at a charity brunch at that exact time. Which meant someone else had taken this picture. Someone who had access to his house. Someone who wanted Marcus to know. He booked the first flight home. Middle seat. 6-hour layover. He didn't care. His captain's response came in 30 seconds. Go. We'll cover your cases. Marcus shoved through the terminal toward his gate. 15 years as a cop. 10 years as a detective. He'd investigated homicides, domestic violence, child abuse cases that would break most people. He'd told himself he was good at leaving the job at the door. Protecting his family from the darkness he waded through every day. He'd been lying. He'd left his son alone with a woman he barely knew because grief had made him stupid. Because work had made him absent. Because he'd convinced himself that Patricia's church smile and soft voice meant she was safe. Denise had tried to warn him. In those final weeks when she was too weak to leave her bed, she'd grabbed his hand and made him promise. "Watch her," Denise had whispered. "Something's not right. Promise me you'll watch her." He'd promised. Then he'd buried his wife, drowned himself in work, and broken every word. The plane was boarding. Marcus joined the line, his jaw tight, his mind running calculations. 6 hours to Atlanta. 2-hour layover. 3 more hours to home. 11 hours before he could get to his son. 11 hours too many. He thought about Jalen's face in that photo. The fear in his eyes. The way he'd been positioned, small, vulnerable, exposed. "I'm coming," Marcus thought. Pushing through the jet bridge. "Hold on, little man, Daddy's coming." Behind him, the terminal lights flickered. Ahead, the night stretched long and dark. But Marcus Jameson was done being absent. He was done trusting strangers with his son. And when he got home, there would be a reckoning. The next morning came too fast. Jalen hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard Patricia's voice from the recording. Every time he started to drift off, his burned arm throbbed and yanked him back awake. Now, pale winter light pushed through his window, and downstairs, Patricia was making breakfast. He could smell bacon. The smell made him sick. Jalen sat up slowly, cradling his arm against his chest. The burn had blistered overnight, angry welts rising from the skin like accusations. He needed to hide it. Long sleeves. No questions. He pulled on his thickest sweater, wincing as the fabric brushed the wound, and tucked the blue box deeper under his bed. The recorder was back inside, nestled beneath the handkerchief. Safe. Hidden. For now. "Jalen..." Patricia's voice floated up the stairs, sweet as poison. "Breakfast is ready, sweetheart." Sweetheart. The word made his stomach turn. He walked downstairs on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. Patricia stood at the stove, flipping pancakes with a spatula, humming softly. She wore a cream-colored sweater and pearls at 7 in the morning, and her hair was pulled back in that perfect, severe style she always wore. She looked like a magazine picture. Like someone's idea of a good mother. "There you are," she smiled without showing her teeth. "Sit down. I made your favorites." Jalen sat. The plate she set in front of him was stacked with pancakes, bacon arranged in a neat row beside them. A glass of orange juice sweated on the table. Everything looked normal, perfect, like nothing had happened. "Eat up," Patricia said, settling into the chair across from him. "Your father might call today." Jalen picked up his fork. His hand was shaking. He hoped she couldn't see. "How's your arm?" The question came casual light, like she was asking about the weather. Jalen's fork froze halfway to his mouth. "It's fine," he said. "Good." Patricia sipped her coffee. "Because we don't want your father worrying about silly accidents, do we? He has enough stress with work." Jalen said nothing. "You understand, don't you, Jalen? Your father is a very important man. A police officer. He protects people. But he can't do his job if he's worried about things at home." She set her cup down with a soft click. "So we keep things simple. We don't bother him with little problems." "Yes, ma'am." "Good boy." She smiled again, and this time Jalen saw something behind it, something cold and calculating, like a cat watching a mouse. "Now, eat your breakfast. We have a big day ahead." Jalen ate. The pancakes tasted like cardboard. The phone rang at 11:47 a.m. Patricia answered on the second ring, her voice transforming instantly into something warm and melodic. "Marcus." "Oh, honey, we were just talking about you. Jalen, come here. It's Daddy." Jalen walked to the phone on wooden legs. Patricia handed him the receiver, her fingers lingering on his shoulder, not comforting, controlling. A reminder. "Hey, little man." His father's voice came through the line, tired but warm. "How you doing?" Jalen's throat tightened. He wanted to scream, wanted to tell him everything, the iron, the burn Vincent, the recording. The words piled up behind his teeth like cars in a traffic jam. Patricia's fingers squeezed his shoulder. "I'm okay, Daddy." "Yeah, you being good for Patricia." "Yes, sir. That's my boy." A pause. Jalen heard airport noise in the background, announcements, rolling luggage, distant conversations. "Listen, Jay, I'm gonna be home real soon. Got an earlier flight. Should be there by tonight." Jalen's heart leaped. "Tonight?" "That's right, Christmas Eve. Remember I promised I'd be home for Christmas, didn't I?" "You promised. And Daddy keeps his promises." Another pause, longer this time. "Jay, is everything okay there? You sound... I don't know. You sound different." The words were right there, right on the tip of his tongue. Patricia's nails dug into his shoulder. "I'm fine, Daddy. Just tired." "Okay." His father didn't sound convinced. "Well, get some rest. I'll see you tonight. I love you, little man." "I love you too." The line went dead. Jalen stood holding the receiver, listening to the dial tone, feeling Patricia's hand still gripping his shoulder like a claw. "Good boy," she whispered. "Very good boy." She took the phone from his hand and walked away, heels clicking on the kitchen tile. Jalen stayed frozen. His father was coming home. Tonight. He just had to survive until tonight. The hours crawled. Jalen stayed in his room, door closed, listening to Patricia move through the house below. She was cleaning obsessively, frantically, running the vacuum, polishing surfaces, arranging and rearranging furniture, preparing for Marcus's return, preparing her performance. Jalen pulled out his notebook and added to his list. "Patricia made me lie to Daddy on the phone. She squeezed my shoulder so I would stay quiet. Daddy is coming home tonight. I have to tell him." He read the words back to himself. They looked small, weak. Would his father even believe him? Patricia was smart. She knew how to smile, how to act, how to make everyone think she was the perfect wife, the perfect stepmother. She'd fooled the church, fooled the neighbors, even fooled Marcus. But she hadn't fooled Mama, and she hadn't fooled Jalen. He slid the notebook back under his mattress and pulled out the blue box. The recorder sat inside, heavy with truth. His mother's voice. Patricia's threats. Evidence that couldn't be explained away. If he could just get his father alone. If he could just make him listen. A knock on his door made him jump. "Jalen?" Patricia's voice muffled through the wood. "I need to come in." Jalen shoved the box under his bed, heart hammering. "I'm getting dressed." "You've had all morning to get dressed." The doorknob turned. Locked. Jalen had started locking it after last night. "Open this door." "Just a minute." "Open it now." The sweetness was gone. Her voice was ice. Jalen kicked the box further under the bed and unlocked the door with trembling fingers. Patricia pushed in immediately, her eyes sweeping the room. "What were you doing?" "Nothing. Just reading." "Reading." She didn't believe him. Her gaze moved to the bed, to the floor, to the gap between the mattress and the carpet. "Where's the box?" "What box?" Patricia's hand shot out and grabbed his chin, forcing his face up to meet hers. Her grip was hard enough to bruise. "Don't play stupid with me." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I know you have it. I know your mother left you something. And before your father gets home, you're going to give it to me." "I don't know what you're talking about." She squeezed harder. Jalen's eyes watered. "Your father loves you," Patricia said, her face inches from his. "But love doesn't mean he'll believe you. I've been here every day while he's been gone. I've cooked. I've cleaned. I've taken you to school and church and tucked you in at night. Who do you think he's going to trust, a 6-year-old with an imagination, or his wife?" Jalen's chin throbbed under her fingers. "I'm going to ask you one more time." Patricia's eyes bore into his. "Where is the box?" Something shifted inside Jalen. Maybe it was fear reaching its limit. Maybe it was his mother's voice still echoing in his memory. Maybe it was the knowledge that his father was coming, really coming, and this might be his last chance. "Mama told me not to give it to anyone." The words came out steady, stronger than he felt. Patricia's expression flickered. Surprise, then rage, then something else. Something that looked almost like fear. "Your mama is dead." "I know. She can't protect you anymore." "I know." "Then why?" Patricia stopped. Her grip loosened slightly. "What did she tell you? What did she say about me?" Jalen stayed silent. Patricia released his chin and stepped back. Her hands were shaking, barely visible but there. She was scared. Jalen could see it now. Underneath the anger, underneath the cruelty, Patricia was terrified. "Fine," she said, her voice hardening. "Keep your secrets. But when your father gets home, I'm going to tell him you've been acting out, lying, hurting yourself for attention." She gestured at his arm. "That burn. You did it yourself. Everyone knows you've had problems since your mother died. Everyone knows you need help." Jalen's blood went cold. "I'm going to suggest a facility," Patricia continued. "Somewhere they can give you the care you need. Somewhere far away." She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Your father will resist at first, but I'll convince him. I always do." She turned and walked to the door. "You have until tonight," she said without looking back. "Give me the box, or I'll make sure you never see your father again." The door closed. Jalen stood alone, his whole body trembling. She was going to send him away, going to convince his father he was crazy, going to bury the truth under lies and paperwork and concerned parent smiles. He had to act. Now. Jalen waited until he heard Patricia go back downstairs. Then he pulled the box from under his bed and grabbed his notebook. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely write. "Patricia is going to tell Daddy I hurt myself. She's going to say I need to go away. She's lying. Everything she says is a lie." He added the date, the time, every detail he could remember. Then he looked at the recorder. His father needed to hear this, but Patricia wouldn't let Jalen anywhere near him alone. She'd make sure of that. She'd hover and smile and perform her perfect wife act until Marcus believed every word she said, unless Jalen found another way. He thought about the house, about the places Patricia never went. The basement with its spider webs and forgotten boxes, the attic where his mother's old things were stored. The car. His father always drove straight to the garage when he came home. Always sat in the car for a few minutes, decompressing from the drive before coming inside. If Jalen could get to the car first, if he could hide the recorder somewhere, his father would find it. It was risky. Patricia watched him constantly. But she'd be focused on preparing for Marcus's arrival, hair makeup, the perfect dinner, the perfect atmosphere. She might not notice if Jalen slipped away for a few minutes. He had to try. Jalen wrapped the recorder in the handkerchief and tucked it into his pocket. The box went back under the bed, empty now, except for the card. If Patricia found it, she'd think she'd won. She wouldn't know the real evidence was already gone. Jalen opened his door and listened. Downstairs, Patricia was on the phone. Her voice drifted up, animated and cheerful, probably talking to one of her church friends, performing normalcy. This was his chance. He crept down the hallway toward the back stairs, the old wooden steps that led to the mudroom and the garage. His mother had shown him this route when he was little, a secret path for hide and seek. He'd never been more grateful for that game. The stairs creaked under his weight, but Patricia's voice kept flowing, oblivious. Jalen reached the mudroom and slipped through the door into the cold garage. His father's parking spot was empty. The space felt huge and hollow without a car in it. Concrete floor, metal shelves, the smell of motor oil and dust. A workbench along one wall, tools hanging in neat rows. Where could he hide it? His eyes moved across the garage, calculating. The glove compartment, too obvious. Under the seat, Patricia might check. The console. The toolbox. His father's toolbox sat on the workbench, red metal with a silver latch. Marcus used it every weekend, checking his car, tinkering with projects. Patricia never touched it. never even looked at it. Jalen climbed onto a stool and lifted the lid. Inside were wrenches, screwdrivers, a flashlight, rolls of electrical tape. He moved things carefully, creating a space in the bottom corner. The recorder fit perfectly. He covered it with a rag and closed the lid. Done. Now he just had to make sure his father opened that box. Jalen climbed down from the stool and turned to leave. Patricia was standing in the doorway. "What are you doing out here?" Her voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp, scanning the garage, looking for what he'd hidden. "I was looking for my bike," Jalen said. "I wanted to ride it. Your bike is in this backyard." "Oh." Patricia didn't move from the doorway. Her gaze shifted to the workbench, to the toolbox, back to Jalen. "You're not supposed to be in the garage alone. You know that." "Sorry." She studied him for a long moment. Jalen's heart pounded so hard he was sure she could hear it. Then she stepped aside. "Go to your room. Your father will be here in a few hours. I want you cleaned up and presentable." Jalen walked past her, keeping his pace steady, not too fast, not too slow. Patricia's eyes followed him all the way. But she didn't check the toolbox. The hours until Marcus's arrival felt like days. Jalen sat in his room, freshly bathed, wearing his nicest clothes, the ones Patricia had laid out on his bed. His hair was combed, his face was clean. He looked like the perfect, well-cared-for child. The burn on his arm throbbed beneath his sleeve. Downstairs, Patricia was cooking. The smell of roast chicken drifted up, mixing with the scent of pine from the Christmas tree she'd decorated while Jalen was at school last week. Everything looked perfect. That was the point. At 6:23 p.m., headlights swept across the living room windows. "He's here!" Patricia called, her voice bright with manufactured excitement. "Jalen, come downstairs." Jalen walked down slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. The front door opened, and there he was. Marcus Jameson looked older than Jalen remembered. The lines around his eyes were deeper, his beard fuller, his shoulders heavier, like he was carrying something invisible that weighed more than any suitcase. But when he saw Jalen, his face transformed. "There's my boy." He dropped his bag and crossed the room in 3 strides, sweeping Jalen into a hug that lifted him off his feet. "Daddy." The word came out muffled against his father's chest. "I'm here, little man. I'm home." For one perfect moment, Jalen let himself believe everything would be okay. His father was here. His father would fix it. His father would see the truth. Then Patricia appeared, gliding across the room with a smile that showed all her teeth. "Welcome home, honey." She kissed Marcus's cheek, her hand settling possessively on his arm. "I hope you're hungry. I made your favorite." Marcus straightened, keeping one hand on Jalen's shoulder. "Smells amazing. Let me just wash up." "Of course." Jalen helped me set the table. It wasn't a request. Jalen followed Patricia into the kitchen while his father headed upstairs. Every step felt like walking away from safety. "Tonight you're going to be perfect," Patricia whispered her back to him as she pulled plates from the cabinet. "You're going to smile. You're going to say everything is fine. And tomorrow we're going to have a conversation with your father about getting you some help." Jalen said nothing. "Do you understand me?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good." She handed him a stack of napkins. "Set the table." Dinner was a performance. Patricia played her role, flawlessly attentive wife, devoted stepmother, keeper of the happy home. She laughed at Marcus's jokes, refilled his wine, asked about his assignment with just the right amount of concern. "It must have been so hard," she said, touching his hand. "Being away during the holidays. But I want you to know Jalen and I have been doing great. Haven't we, sweetie?" Jalen looked at his plate. "Yes, ma'am." Marcus frowned slightly. "You okay, Jay? You've barely touched your food." "I'm just tired, Daddy." "He's been having trouble sleeping," Patricia said smoothly. "Growing pains, I think. I've been meaning to take him to the doctor, actually. Dr. Reeves said sometimes children his age develop anxiety." "Anxiety?" Marcus's frown deepened. "He's 6. Children process grief differently. Losing his mother. Patricia shook her head sadly. I've been doing my best, but I'm not a professional. Maybe he needs someone to talk to. Marcus looked at Jalen. Really looked. Jalen met his father's eyes, trying to communicate everything he couldn't say. The fear, the pain, the secrets. The recorder waiting in the toolbox. Please, he thought. Please see me. We'll talk about it later, Marcus said finally. Right now, I just want to enjoy being home with my family. Patricia smiled. Of course, honey. She reached across the table and squeezed Jalen's hand. Her nails dug into his skin. After dinner, Marcus helped clear the table. Let me get the dishes, Patricia said. You two should spend some time together. Jalen's missed you so much. Actually, Marcus said, I need to grab something from my toolbox. Left my good flashlight in the car last time I was home. Jalen's heart stopped. Patricia's smile flickered. Can it wait? The dishes won't take long and then we can all watch a movie together. Just take a minute. Marcus was already heading for the garage. Jay, come help me. Patricia's face went still. Jalen needs to get ready for bed. He can stay up late tonight. It's Christmas Eve. Marcus held out his hand. Come on, little man. Jalen took his father's hand. Patricia watched them go. Her eyes narrowed, her mouth pressed into a thin line. The garage was cold. Marcus flipped on the light and walked to the workbench, pulling the red toolbox toward him. Your mom used to hide notes in here for me, he said, lifting the lid. Little love letters. I'd find them when I was working on the car. He smiled at the memory. Then his hand touched the rag. He frowned, moving it aside, and found the recorder. Marcus lifted it slowly, his expression shifting from confusion to something else, something dark and focused. The look he got when he was working a case. Jay. His voice was quiet. What is this? Jalen's throat tightened. Mama left it for me. Your mama? She hid it in my box, the one with the handkerchief. The words started tumbling out faster and faster. She told me not to give it to anyone, but I had to show you because Patricia... Hey! Marcus knelt down, gripping Jalen's shoulders gently. Slow down. Take a breath. Jalen breathed. Now tell me, from the beginning. So Jalen told him. Everything. The burn, the threats. Vincent's visit. The coded message. His mother's warning. Write everything down. Marcus listened without interrupting. His jaw tightened, his hands clenched. But he didn't speak until Jalen finished. Then he lifted the recorder. This has Patricia on it. Jalen nodded. Marcus pressed play. His mother's voice filled the garage, warm and familiar and achingly present. Then Patricia's voice, sharp with contempt. The threats. The cruelty. Maybe there's an accident. Maybe he falls down the stairs. Marcus's face went pale. You're going to be dead in a month, Denise. You don't get to decide what happens after. You don't get to protect him from the grave. The recording ended. Silence. Marcus stared at the recorder in his hand. His jaw worked. His eyes glistened. Daddy, Jalen whispered. Marcus looked at his son, at the fear in his eyes, at the sleeve that hid the burn. Let me see your arm. Jalen hesitated. Jay, let me see. Slowly, Jalen pushed up his sleeve. The burn was worse now, blistered and red, the shape unmistakably deliberate. Marcus made a sound in his throat, something between a growl and a sob. She did this. It wasn't a question. Last night, Jalen said. She wanted the box. Marcus closed his eyes. His whole body trembled with something vast and terrible, rage and grief and guilt all tangled together. When he opened his eyes again, they were different. Hard. Focused. The eyes of a cop who'd just found his case. Listen to me. He gripped Jalen's shoulders. You did good. You did exactly what your mama told you. And I'm going to fix this. Do you understand? I'm going to fix everything. What about Patricia? Marcus stood. His shadow stretched across the garage floor. Patricia is going to answer for what she's done. He slipped the recorder into his pocket. Stay here. Don't come inside until I come get you. Daddy. Stay here, Jay. His voice softened. I need to know you're safe. Can you do that for me? Jalen nodded. Marcus walked toward the house. Jalen watched him go, his heart pounding his arm, throbbing his mother's voice, still echoing in his ears. You don't get to protect him from the grave. But she had. She'd protected him anyway. Marcus crossed the yard in 5 strides. The recorder burned in his pocket like a live coal. His wife's voice still echoed in his skull, weak but defiant, protecting their son, even as death closed in. And Patricia's voice, dripping with contempt, promising accidents, promising harm. He'd left his child with a monster, for months. The guilt would come later. Right now, there was only cold, focused rage. He pushed open the back door. Patricia stood at the kitchen sink, her back to him, rinsing dishes with careful, precise movements. She didn't turn around. That was fast, she said lightly. Find your flashlight. Marcus didn't answer. He walked to the kitchen table and set the recorder down. The click of plastic on wood seemed unnaturally loud. Patricia's hands stopped moving. What's that? You know what it is? She turned slowly, drying her hands on a towel. Her face was calm, arranged into pleasant confusion. But Marcus had interrogated enough suspects to see the fear behind her eyes. I don't understand, Patricia said. Is that some kind of... I listened to it. The words cut through her performance like a knife. I heard everything, Patricia. Denise recorded you, every threat, every promise to hurt my son. His voice was low, controlled, more dangerous than shouting. So let's skip the part where you pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. Patricia's mask slipped, just for a second. Then she recovered, morphing her expression into wounded innocence. Marcus, honey, I don't know what's on that tape, but if Jalen told you something, he's been acting out lately. Having episodes. I was going to tell you tonight, actually. I think he needs professional help. Professional help? Yes. A facility where they can... Show me your hands. Patricia blinked. What? Your hands. Show me. She hesitated, then extended them, palms up. Her nails were perfectly manicured, clean, innocent looking. Now show me my son's arm. The silence stretched. Marcus. I saw the burn. His voice cracked slightly, the first break in his control. I saw what you did to him, so stop. Stop lying. Stop performing. Because I'm about 3 seconds from calling every cop I know and having you dragged out of here in handcuffs. Patricia's face changed. The sweetness drained away, replaced by something harder, colder. The real woman beneath the mask. You don't understand the situation, she said quietly. Then explain it to me. The trust, the insurance money, your wife. Patricia's lip curled. Saint Denise, everyone's favorite martyr. She was going to ruin everything, asking questions, digging into the finances. If she'd gone to the lawyers with what she found, what did she find? Patricia laughed, short and bitter. You really don't know. Your devoted wife didn't tell you. Marcus said nothing. He waited. The trust is fraudulent, Patricia said. Vincent set it up years ago, back when Denise's parents were still alive. Siphoned money out of their estate. When they died, the rest was supposed to go to Jalen, but the paperwork is structured so that whoever controls Jalen controls the money. Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. That's what this is about, money. $600,000, Marcus. Maybe more once the investments mature. Patricia's eyes glittered. Your wife figured it out. She was going to expose everything. So we had to... redirect. We. Vincent and I. The name hit Marcus like a punch. Vincent Mercer, your family's financial advisor. Among other things. Marcus's hands curled into fists. What did you do to Denise? Patricia smiled. That thin, cruel smile he'd somehow never seen before. We didn't have to do anything. Cancer did the work for us. We just had to wait. And keep her quiet long enough that she couldn't go to the authorities. You threatened her. We reminded her what was at stake. Her son, her precious boy. Patricia's voice dripped with mockery. She could have made trouble even from her deathbed, but she chose to stay silent, to protect Jalen. Isn't that touching? Marcus's vision blurred with rage. She wasn't silent, he said through gritted teeth. She was gathering evidence. She recorded everything. And she left it for her son. Patricia's smile faltered. That box, she whispered. I knew it. I knew she'd... You burned my child trying to get it. You threatened to send him away. You... Marcus's voice broke. He pressed his hand over his eyes, fighting for control. He's 6 years old. He's a baby. And you... He's a liability. Patricia's voice hardened. Just like his mother. Always watching, always listening, always holding on to things he shouldn't have. If you'd stayed away longer, I could have handled it. Put him somewhere quiet. Somewhere no one asks questions. You would have killed him. I would have solved a problem. The words hung in the air between them. Marcus stared at the woman he'd married. The woman he'd brought into his home. The woman he'd trusted with his son. He'd never truly seen her until this moment. It's over, he said quietly. All of it. I'm calling the department. You're going to be arrested. Vincent too. Patricia didn't move. You think it's that simple? She tilted her head, studying him like he was a child who'd said something naive. Vincent has friends. Important friends. Judges, politicians, people who owe him favors. You think one recording is going to bring all that down? It's a start. It's nothing. Patricia stepped closer. You're a cop from a nothing town, Marcus. A widower with a troubled son. Who do you think they're going to believe, you, or the respected financial advisor who's been managing estates in this state for 30 years? Marcus didn't flinch. I believe the evidence, and so will a jury. If it even gets that far. Patricia's voice dropped to a whisper. Vincent has made problems disappear before. Witnesses, documents, people who got too curious. She let that sink in. Are you sure you want to find out if he can make a cop disappear too? For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Let's find out. He dialed. Patricia lunged. She was faster than he expected. Her hand closed around his wrist nails, digging in, trying to knock the phone away. Don't you dare. Marcus twisted free. 15 years of training kicked in controlled movement, leverage economy of force. He caught her arm, spun her around, pressed her against the counter. Don't. Move. Patricia struggled. You can't do this. I'm your wife. You're under arrest. The words came out automatic, professional, the cop taking over where the husband fell apart. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. This is insane. You have the right to an attorney, if you cannot afford one. Marcus, stop. Think about what you're doing. He finished the Miranda warning without pausing. By the time he was done, Patricia had stopped fighting. She sagged against the counter, breathing hard, her perfect hair falling loose around her face. You're making a mistake, she said quietly. Vincent won't let this stand. He'll come for you. For Jalen. Let him try. Marcus kept one hand on Patricia's arm and lifted his phone with the other. The call had connected. He could hear dispatch on the other end. This is Detective Marcus Jameson, badge number 7429. I need units at my residence immediately. I have a suspect in custody. Additional suspect at large, Vincent Mercer, wanted for conspiracy and threats against a minor. Consider armed and dangerous. He gave the address, gave the details, kept his voice steady, even though his hands wanted to shake. When he hung up, Patricia laughed. You think this ends with handcuffs? You have no idea what you've started. I know exactly what I've started. Marcus turned her toward the kitchen table, keeping her wrists secured. The question is whether you're smart enough to cooperate, because right now you're looking at conspiracy to commit fraud, child abuse, and threatening a witness. But if Vincent goes down alone, you might just survive this. Patricia's breath caught. What are you offering? Nothing yet. That's for the DA to decide. But I've seen how these things work. The first one to talk usually gets the better deal. Silence. Marcus could almost see the calculations running behind Patricia's eyes. Self-preservation warring with whatever twisted loyalty she had to Vincent. He'll kill me, she whispered. If I testify, he'll be in prison, if the evidence holds. If. You could help make sure it does. Patricia closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something had shifted. The cruelty was still there, but it was layered over something else now. Fear, desperation, the realization that she'd lost. What do you want to know? Marcus pulled out a chair. Everything. Jalen sat on the cold concrete floor of the garage, hugging his knees to his chest. He could hear voices from inside the house, his father's, Patricia's. The words were muffled, but the tone was clear, sharp, angry, dangerous. Then, sirens. Distant at first, growing closer. Red and blue lights reflected off the garage windows, painting strange patterns on the walls. Jalen didn't move. His arms still throbbed. His heart still raced. But underneath the fear, something else was growing. Something that felt like relief. His father knew. His father believed him. His father was fixing it. The garage door opened. Marcus stood in the doorway, his face drawn and tired, but his eyes soft when they found Jalen. Hey, little man. Daddy. Jalen scrambled to his feet. What happened is Patricia. She's being taken care of. Some officers are here. They're going to make sure she can't hurt anyone anymore. And Vincent? Marcus's jaw tightened. They're looking for him. He won't get far. Jalen wanted to believe that, wanted to believe it was over. But Vincent's voice still echoed in his memory, calm, cold, certain. If the boy speaks, everything unravels. Daddy, he said Patricia said Vincent makes people disappear. Witnesses. People who cause problems. Marcus knelt down, gripping Jalen's shoulders gently. Listen to me. I'm not going to let anyone hurt you. Not Patricia, not Vincent, not anyone. Do you understand? But he's, Jay. Marcus's voice was firm but kind. I've been doing this job a long time. I know how to protect my family. And I should have... His voice cracked. I should have been protecting you all along. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I wasn't here. Jalen's eyes filled with tears. It's not your fault, Daddy. Yeah, it is. Marcus pulled him into a hug, holding him tight. But I'm going to make it right, I promise. They stayed like that for a long moment, father and son, the sirens wailing outside the night, pressing cold against the windows. Then Marcus pulled back, wiping his eyes. Come on, let's get you inside where it's warm. Some nice officers are going to ask you some questions. Just tell them the truth. Okay. Everything you told me. Jalen nodded. And after that, Marcus managed a small smile. After that, we're going to have Christmas. Just you and me, like it should have been all along. Jalen took his father's hand. They walked into the house together. The next hours blurred together. Officers filled the living room, taking photos, collecting evidence, speaking into radios. A woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice sat with Jalen on the couch, asking questions about Patricia, about the burn, about what he'd seen and heard. Jalen told her everything. He showed her his arm, showed her the notebook hidden under his mattress, showed her the blue box with its worn paper and hidden messages. The woman wrote everything down. She didn't interrupt, didn't doubt him, just listened with patient attention until Jalen had nothing left to say. You're very brave, she said when he finished. Your mama would be proud of you. Jalen's throat tightened. She told me to write everything down. And you did. That helped more than you know. Across the room, Marcus stood with two detectives speaking in low, urgent tones. Jalen caught fragments. Financial fraud. Conspiracy. APB on Mercer. Then Marcus's phone rang. He answered it, listened for a moment, and his face went still. When? A pause. Where? Another pause. I'm on my way. He hung up and crossed to Jalen, kneeling down. I have to go somewhere, just for a little while. What happened? Marcus hesitated. They found Vincent. He's at his office. Refuses to come out. Like a standoff. Something like that. Marcus squeezed Jalen's shoulder. Officer Torres is going to stay with you. She's good people. And I'll be back as soon as I can. Jalen grabbed his father's hand. Be careful. Marcus smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Always. He kissed Jalen's forehead and was gone. Jalen watched through the window as his father's car pulled away, red taillights disappearing into the snowy night. Officer Torres sat down beside him. He's going to be okay, she said. Your dad knows what he's doing. Jalen nodded, but the fear in his chest didn't go away. Vincent Mercer stood in his corner office, looking out at the city lights through floor-to-ceiling windows. The building was mostly empty. Christmas Eve had sent everyone home hours ago. Only the security guard in the lobby and Vincent himself remained separated by 12 floors of darkness. His briefcase sat open on the desk behind him. Inside were documents, contracts, account statements, transfer records, the paper trail he'd spent years carefully constructing, and now carefully destroying. The shredder hummed steadily in the corner, eating page after page. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. Another buzz. Another. Finally, he picked up. What? They arrested Patricia. A lawyer's voice clipped and professional. She's talking Vincent, telling them everything. Vincent's jaw tightened. How much does she know? Enough. The trust, the fraud, the threats against the woman and her child. A pause. They have a recording, Vincent. The wife made a recording. Silence. Vincent looked at his reflection in the dark glass. Steel gray hair, sharp angles, the face of a man who'd spent 40 years building an empire on other people's money and other people's trust. All of it crumbling now because of a dying woman and her 6-year-old son. Vincent, are you there? I'm here. You need to come in, voluntarily. It'll look better if... Vincent ended the call. He walked to the shredder, fed another stack of papers into its teeth, and watched them become confetti. The police would come. He knew that. Patricia had been a necessary ally, but never a loyal one. She'd sell him out without hesitation if it meant saving herself. He had two choices: run and spend whatever years he had left looking over his shoulder, or end this on his own terms. Vincent opened his desk drawer. The gun inside was small, silver, elegant. He'd bought it years ago for protection. Never fired it. Never needed to. Until now. He picked it up. Heavy. Cold. Final. The elevator dinged in the hallway. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Moving fast. Vincent Mercer. A voice echoed through the empty floor. This is the police. We have a warrant for your arrest. Come out with your hands visible. Vincent looked at the gun, looked at the window, looked at the shredder still humming, still eating the last of his carefully constructed lies. He thought about the boy, Jalen, small and scared and holding on to that ridiculous blue box like it contained the secrets of the universe. It had, in a way, the secret that destroyed everything. Mercer. Last warning. Vincent raised the gun. Not toward the door, toward the window. He fired. Glass exploded outward, cold air rushing in alarms, screaming to life. And Vincent Mercer stepped forward into the night. Marcus arrived at the building in time to see the ambulance lights. He pushed through the crowd of officers, badge out, heart pounding. What happened? A detective he knew from downtown met him at the entrance. Mercer jumped. Or fell. We're not sure yet. Fired a shot through the window, then went through after it. Is he DOA, 12 floors? The detective shook his head. No note, just a lot of shredded documents and an empty briefcase. Marcus stood very still. He'd wanted justice, wanted Vincent in handcuffs in court facing a jury, wanted him to answer for what he'd done to Denise, to Jalen, to all the families he'd cheated over the years. Instead, he got this. A body on the pavement, a case file that would never see trial, a coward's exit. Marcus. He blinked. Yeah. You okay? No. He turned away from the building, away from the lights and sirens. But I will be. He got in his car and drove home. Jalen was waiting. The house was quieter when Marcus returned. Most of the officers had gone. Only Torres remained sitting with Jalen in the living room, a cup of cocoa growing cold on the table between them. Jalen looked up when his father walked in. Daddy. Marcus crossed the room and sat down beside him. He looked exhausted, bone-deep tired, in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. Vincent's gone, he said quietly. Gone. He's not going to hurt anyone anymore. That's all you need to know. Jalen studied his father's face. He was only 6, but he'd learned a lot about reading people in the last few months. He could see the pain there, the anger, the relief that didn't quite feel like relief. Did you catch him? Not exactly. Marcus put his arm around Jalen's shoulders. But it's over. Really over this time. Jalen leaned into his father's side. What about Patricia? She's going to jail, for a long time. And me. Marcus looked down at him. What do you mean? Where am I going to go? Jalen's voice was small. Patricia said there were places, for kids who cause trouble, places where no one comes looking. Marcus pulled him closer. You're not going anywhere. You're staying right here with me, where you belong. Promise. I promise. Marcus's voice was thick. I should have said it before. I should have been here. But I'm saying it now, and I'm going to keep saying it until you believe me. You're my son. You're my family. And nothing is ever going to change that. Jalen's eyes filled with tears. He'd been holding them back for so long, staying quiet, staying invisible, trying to survive. Now finally he let them fall. Marcus held him while he cried, not saying anything, just being there. Solid, present, real. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, for the first time in months, the house felt safe. Jalen didn't know how long they sat like that. Long enough for his tears to dry. Long enough for his breathing to steady. Long enough for the fear that had lived in his chest since his mother died to loosen its grip just a little. Finally, he looked up. Daddy? Yeah, little man. Mama's recording, the one with Patricia. I hid it because she told me to, in her message. She said not to trust anyone until I was sure. Marcus nodded slowly. She was smart, your mama, smarter than any of us knew. She knew something was wrong. Even before she got really sick, she knew. Yeah. Marcus's voice was rough. She did. Jalen reached into his pocket. The card was still there, folded, worn, precious. He handed it to his father. She left you a message too, I think, hidden in the symbols. Marcus took the card with trembling hands. He unfolded it carefully, like it might crumble to dust if he moved too fast. He read the words his wife had written, traced the symbols between the lines, and he smiled. Not a happy smile, a sad one. The smile of a man reading a love letter from a ghost. What does it say? Jalen asked. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he read aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. Protect our boy. Trust his heart. He is braver than he knows. Jalen's chest tightened. She knew, he said. She knew I could do it. She always knew. Marcus pulled him close again. And she was right. They sat together as midnight approached, father and son, the blue box between them, the snow falling soft and steady outside. Christmas Eve had brought darkness, but it had also brought truth. And somewhere, Jalen was certain his mother was watching. The clock on the wall read 11:47 p.m. when the knock came. Marcus tensed immediately. His hand moved toward his hip before he remembered he'd left his service weapon locked in the bedroom safe. "Stay here," he said to Jalen. He crossed to the door and checked the peephole. A woman stood on the porch, late 50s gray hair pulled back in a neat bun, wearing a heavy wool coat and an expression that mixed exhaustion with determination. She held a manila folder against her chest like a shield. Marcus recognized her. Detective Lorraine Webb, Internal Affairs. They'd crossed paths twice before, once during a corruption investigation that had nothing to do with him, and once at a department funeral. She wasn't the kind of person who made social calls. He opened the door. "Detective Jameson." Webb's voice was clipped professional. "I apologize for the hour. May I come in?" Marcus glanced back at Jalen, who was watching from the couch with wide eyes. "My son is here." "I know. This concerns him too." Webb's gaze moved past Marcus to the boy. Something softened in her expression. "I'll keep it brief." Marcus stepped aside. Webb entered, stamping snow from her boots. She didn't sit down, didn't remove her coat, just stood in the entryway holding that folder like it contained something explosive. "I've been reviewing Patricia Mercer's statement," she said, "and the documents recovered from Vincent Mercer's office. Vincent's dead. I'm aware. His death doesn't erase what he did." Webb opened the folder. "Your wife Denise, she wasn't the first person to notice irregularities in Vincent's financial management. There were others. 3 families over the past 15 years who raised concerns about missing funds and suspicious transactions." Marcus's jaw tightened. "What happened to them?" "2 relocated out of state, suddenly without explanation. The third," Webb paused. "A man named Harold Chen. He died in a car accident 6 months after filing a complaint with the State Bar Association." The words hung in the air. "You're saying Vincent killed him?" "I'm saying the accident was never properly investigated. Single-car collision on a rural road. No witnesses. Case closed in 48 hours. Webb's eyes met his. "Your wife's recording changes things. Patricia's testimony changes things. We're reopening Harold Chen's case, along with the 2 missing families." Marcus exhaled slowly. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because there's more." She pulled a photograph from the folder and handed it to Marcus. He looked at it. His blood went cold. The photo showed Vincent Mercer shaking hands with a man in a judge's robe. Behind them, partially visible, was another man Marcus recognized, Captain Dean Holbrook, his own commanding officer. "When was this taken?" 3 years ago. A fundraiser for judicial candidates." Webb's voice was carefully neutral. "Captain Holbrook has received substantial campaign contributions from Vincent Mercer's associates over the past decade. Contributions that were never properly disclosed." Marcus stared at the photograph. Holbrook had been his mentor, the man who'd promoted him to detective, the man who'd approved his out-of-state assignment, the assignment that had kept him away from home for months, the assignment that had left Jalen alone with Patricia. "Are you saying Holbrook knew?" "I'm saying we're investigating, and until that investigation is complete, you need to be careful who you trust." Webb took the photograph back. "Your son's testimony is critical. Patricia is already trying to negotiate a deal claiming she was coerced by Vincent, that she's a victim too. If her story gains traction..." "She burned my child." "I know." Webb's voice softened slightly. "But in a courtroom, sympathy can shift. Defense attorneys are very good at creating doubt. We need Jalen's account to be rock solid, consistent, unimpeachable." Marcus looked at his son. Jalen sat on the couch, clutching the blue box, watching the adults with eyes that had seen too much. "He's 6 years old." "I know." He's already been through hell. I know that too. Webb closed the folder. But if we don't build this case properly, Patricia walks. Maybe not today, maybe not next month. But eventually, some lawyer finds a technicality. Some judge owes someone a favor, and she's back on the street. She paused. Is that what you want for your son? Knowing the woman who hurt him is out there free. Marcus's hands curled into fists. What do you need? A formal interview, tomorrow if possible. Recorded with a child advocacy specialist present. Everything by the book. Webb handed him a card. Call this number in the morning. We'll arrange everything. Marcus took the card. Webb turned to leave, then stopped at the door. Detective Jameson, your wife was a brave woman. What she did recording those conversations, hiding evidence where only your son could find it, that took extraordinary courage. She looked back at him. Don't let her sacrifice be in vain. She left. The door closed behind her. Marcus stood motionless, the card in his hand, the weight of everything pressing down on him. Holbrook, his captain, his mentor. How deep did this go? Daddy? Jalen's voice pulled him back. Marcus crossed to the couch and sat down heavily beside his son. Who was that lady? Someone from my work. She's trying to help us. She looked serious. She is serious. Marcus put his arm around Jalen. Tomorrow some people are going to ask you questions. About Patricia. About what happened. Just like the nice lady did tonight, but more official. Jalen's body tensed. Do I have to? I'll be right there with you, the whole time, and you don't have to say anything you're not comfortable with. Marcus tilted Jalen's chin up, meeting his eyes. But what you saw and heard, it matters. It could help make sure Patricia pays for what she did, not just to you, but to other people too. Jalen was quiet for a moment. Mama wanted me to tell the truth. Yeah, she did. She said write everything down, so someone would know. That's right. Jalen looked at the blue box in his lap. I'm scared, Daddy. I know, little man. I'm scared too. You are? Yeah. Marcus's voice was rough. But being scared doesn't mean we stop. It means we're doing something that matters. Jalen considered this. Mama was scared too. I could tell, when she gave me the box. But she did it anyway. Because she loved you more than she was afraid. Jalen nodded slowly. Okay, he said. I'll talk to them. Tomorrow. Marcus pulled him close. That's my boy. They sat together as the clock crept toward midnight. Outside, a car drove past, its headlights sweeping across the front windows. Marcus watched it go, his cop instincts cataloging details automatically. Make, model, speed, direction. The car didn't stop, but Marcus didn't relax. Somewhere out there, people who'd benefited from Vincent's schemes were learning that their protector was dead, that Patricia was talking, that the whole carefully constructed house of cards was coming down. Desperate people did desperate things. Daddy, yeah. Can we stay up until Christmas? Marcus checked the clock. 12 minutes to midnight. I think we can manage that. Jalen leaned against his father's side, exhaustion pulling at him, but determination keeping him awake. What do you think Santa brought me? Marcus almost laughed. After everything, the horror, the fear, the revelations, his son was still thinking about Christmas. I don't know, little man. What did you ask for? Jalen was quiet for a moment. I asked for Mama to come back. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Jay? I know she can't. I know it doesn't work like that. Jalen's voice was small but steady. But I still asked, just in case. Marcus couldn't speak. His throat was too tight. It's okay, Daddy. Jalen looked up at him. She's not really gone. She left me the box. She left me her voice. And she left me you. Marcus's eyes burned. When did you get so smart? Mama taught me. They held each other as the last minutes of Christmas Eve ticked away. At midnight, church bells rang somewhere in the distance. "Merry Christmas, Daddy." "Merry Christmas, Jay." Neither of them moved to open presents. Neither of them cared about the tree, or the decorations, or any of the usual rituals. They had something better. They had each other. The morning came too fast. Marcus woke on the couch with Jalen curled against his chest, both of them still in yesterday's clothes. Weak winter sunlight pushed through the curtains, painting stripes across the floor. For a moment, he didn't move. Just lay there feeling his son's steady breathing, letting himself believe just for a second that everything was normal. Then, reality crashed back. Patricia, Webb, Holbrook, the interview scheduled for today. Marcus eased himself out from under Jalen, settling the boy gently onto the couch cushions and covering him with a blanket. He needed coffee. He needed a shower. He needed to figure out how to protect his son from a system that might be compromised from the inside. The kitchen felt different now. This was where Patricia had stood, smiling her false smile, serving pancakes while planning to send Jalen away. Where she'd grabbed his chin hard enough to bruise. Where she'd threatened and manipulated and lied. Marcus filled the coffee maker on autopilot, his mind racing. Webb had said to be careful who he trusted. Good advice. But who was left? His captain was potentially compromised. His colleagues at the precinct might be loyal to Holbrook. His in-laws had never approved of him. They'd made that clear at Denise's funeral, barely acknowledging him through their grief. He was alone. No, not alone. He had Jalen. He had Webb. Presumably, though, trusting internal affairs felt like trusting a snake not to bite. And he had the truth. The truth had to count for something. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Meet me at the diner on 5th. 8 a.m. Important. Come alone." Marcus stared at the message. Every instinct screamed, trap. Unknown number, cryptic message. Instructions to come alone. But the alternative, waiting, reacting, letting events unfold around him, felt worse. He checked on Jalen, still sleeping. He made a decision. The diner on 5th was nearly empty at 8 a.m. on Christmas morning. Marcus walked in with his hand near his hip, scanning the room automatically. A tired waitress behind the counter. An old man reading a newspaper in the corner booth. And at the back table facing the door, Captain Dean Holbrook. Marcus stopped. Holbrook looked up, his face unreadable. He was a big man, broad-shouldered, with close-cropped gray hair and the kind of presence that filled a room. He'd been Marcus's mentor for 15 years. The man who'd taught him how to work a case, how to read a suspect, how to survive the politics of the department. The man who might have been protecting Vincent Mercer all along. "Sit down, Marcus." "I'd rather stand." "Sit down." Holbrook's voice was tired. "Please." Against his better judgment, Marcus sat. The waitress approached. Holbrook waved her off. "I know what you're thinking," Holbrook said quietly. "Webb came to see you last night. Showed you the photograph." "How do you know that?" "Because she came to see me first." Holbrook leaned forward. "I'm not going to insult you by pretending I didn't know Vincent Mercer. We ran in the same circles, attended the same fundraisers. I accepted campaign contributions from his associates, legally properly disclosed, or so I thought." She said, "I know what she said, and she's not wrong to be suspicious, but there's a difference between being fooled by a con man and being complicit in his crimes." Marcus studied his captain's face, looking for tells, looking for lies. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I'm here." Holbrook spread his hands. "If I was part of Vincent's network, would I risk meeting you like this, alone on Christmas morning? Maybe you're trying to find out what I know, what Jalen knows." "I already know what your son knows. I've read Patricia's statement. I've heard the recording." Holbrook's jaw tightened. "What that woman did to your boy, what Vincent orchestrated, it's monstrous, and if I had any idea it was happening, I would have stopped it." "You sent me away." The words came out sharper than Marcus intended. You approved my assignment. 3 months out of state right when Denise was dying. Right when Jalen needed me most. Holbrook was quiet for a moment. You asked for that assignment. I asked. You came to my office 6 months ago, said you needed distance. Said watching your wife die was destroying you, and you couldn't help Jalen if you fell apart. You asked me to find you something far away, something consuming, something that would keep you too busy to think. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it. The memory surfaced unwanted. Standing in Holbrook's office, drowning in grief, begging for an escape. I didn't know, Holbrook continued. I didn't know what Patricia was. I thought I was helping you, giving you space to grieve. I checked in with her regularly. She always said everything was fine. Said Jalen was adjusting. Said they were bonding. She lied. Yes, she did, and I should have seen through it. Holbrook's voice cracked slightly. I have daughters, Marcus. Grandchildren. The thought that I enabled what happened to your boy, it keeps me up at night. Marcus didn't know what to say. Part of him wanted to blame Holbrook, wanted to rage at someone, anyone, for what Jalen had suffered. But another part remembered that desperate conversation, the assignment that had felt like salvation at the time. He'd run away. He'd left his son. He couldn't put all that weight on Holbrook's shoulders when so much of it belonged on his own. Why are you really here? Marcus asked. Holbrook reached into his jacket and pulled out a flash drive. Because I've been doing my own investigation, off the books, since Webb came to me last night. He set the drive on the table. Vincent's network was bigger than anyone realized. Judges, lawyers, a state senator, and someone inside the department, not me but someone with access to case files, someone who made problems disappear. Marcus's pulse quickened. Who? I don't have a name yet, but I have patterns. Cases that were closed too quickly, complaints that vanished from the system, evidence that went missing. Holbrook pushed the drive toward Marcus. It's all on there, along with my resignation letter. Your resignation? I can't lead an investigation into corruption while I'm potentially a target of that investigation. Webb was right to be suspicious of me. The best thing I can do now is step aside and let clean hands do the work. Marcus stared at the flash drive. You're giving this to me. I'm giving it to the man who has the most to lose and the most to gain from getting this right. Holbrook stood. Your son is a brave kid, Marcus. What he did, saving that evidence, staying strong when everything was against him, that's not luck. That's character. You raised him well. His mother raised him. She started the job. You get to finish it. Holbrook pulled on his coat. Be careful. The people on that drive, they're not going to go quietly. And now that Vincent's dead, they're going to be looking for someone to blame. Someone to silence. I can protect my son. I know you can. Holbrook met his eyes. But don't forget to protect yourself too. Jalen needs his father. Don't let him become an orphan because you were too stubborn to ask for help. He walked out of the diner. Marcus sat alone, the flash drive heavy in his palm. When he got home, Jalen was awake. The boy sat on the couch, the blue box open in his lap, staring at his mother's handkerchief. Where did you go? Marcus sat down beside him. I had to meet someone about the case. Is everything okay? I don't know yet. Marcus looked at the flash drive in his hand. But I think it's going to be. Jalen leaned against his father's side. I dreamed about Mama last night. Yeah. She was standing in the kitchen, making pancakes, the good kind with the little chocolate chips. Jalen's voice was soft. She looked at me and smiled. And she said, You did good, baby. I'm so proud of you. Marcus's throat tightened. That sounds like her. Do you think it was really her? Like visiting me from heaven? Marcus put his arm around his son. I think the people we love never really leave us. They stay with us in our memories, in the things they taught us, in the way they made us feel. He paused. Your mama loved you more than anything in the world, and that love doesn't end just because she's not here anymore. Jalen nodded slowly. She left me the box so I'd know. Yeah, she did. They sat together, the morning light growing stronger, the house quiet around them. Then Jalen looked up. Daddy, are we still doing Christmas? Marcus almost laughed. After everything, the terror, the revelations, the midnight visit from internal affairs, the early morning meeting with Holbrook, his son wanted to know about Christmas. Kids were resilient, maybe more resilient than adults. Yeah, little man, we're still doing Christmas. They moved to the tree together. The presents underneath were modest. Marcus hadn't had time to shop properly, and Patricia's contributions had been more about performance than genuine thoughtfulness. But Jalen didn't seem to care. He opened each gift, slowly savoring the paper, the ribbons, the anticipation. A toy car. A book about dinosaurs. A warm winter hat with ear flaps that made him look like a pilot. Simple things, small things, but real. Marcus watched his son trying to memorize this moment. The way Jalen's face lit up. The way his hands moved carefully over each present. The way he looked up after each one, seeking approval, seeking connection. Thank you, Daddy. You're welcome, little man. Jalen set his gifts aside and reached for one more package, a small box wrapped in plain brown paper, no bow, no tag. What's this one? Marcus frowned. I don't know. I didn't wrap that. Jalen turned the box over. Something rattled inside. Marcus's instincts flared. Wait! But Jalen had already torn the paper. Inside was a jewelry box, black velvet, the kind used for rings or earrings. Jalen opened it. A small object lay on the white satin inside. Metal. Round. Familiar. Marcus's blood went cold. It was Denise's wedding ring. The ring she'd been buried with. There was a note tucked beneath it, folded into a tiny square. Marcus took it with numb fingers and unfolded it. 3 words typed in neat black letters. We're not done. Jalen looked up at his father's face. Daddy, what's wrong? Whose ring is that? Marcus didn't answer. He was already reaching for his phone, already dialing Webb's number, already calculating how someone had gotten into his house. His locked house with officers stationed outside, and left this message. The phone rang once, twice. Webb answered. Jameson. Someone was in my house. They left something. Under the tree. His voice was steady, controlled, even as his heart raced. They dug up my wife's grave. Silence on the line. Then, don't touch anything else. I'm sending a team. Marcus hung up. Jalen was staring at the ring, his face pale. That's Mama's ring. The one in the pictures, the one she always wore. Yeah. But she's Daddy, she's buried. How did someone... Marcus pulled his son close, blocking his view of the jewelry box, of the note, of the obscenity that had invaded their Christmas morning. I don't know, Jay, but I'm going to find out. He held his son tight, his eyes scanning the room, cataloging every window, every door, every possible entry point. Someone had been here, in his home, while he and Jalen slept. Someone who wanted him to know they could reach him anywhere. The message was clear. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Webb's team arrived in 12 minutes. Marcus counted every second, standing guard over Jalen in the living room, while forensic specialists swept through the house. They dusted for prints, photographed the jewelry box, bagged the note with gloved hands. The ring went into evidence. Denise's ring. The one Marcus had slipped onto her finger 17 years ago, hands trembling, voice cracking as he said his vows. The one she'd never taken off, not even at the end, not even when her fingers grew thin from the cancer. Someone had dug up his wife's grave. Someone had violated her rest. Someone wanted him to suffer. Jameson? Webb stood in the doorway, her face grim. We found how they got in. Basement window. Lock was picked professional job. No prints, no fibers. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. The officers outside. Saw nothing, heard nothing. Webb's jaw tightened, which means either they were paid to look the other way, or were dealing with someone very, very good. Marcus looked at his son. Jalen sat on the couch wrapped in a blanket, clutching the blue box like a lifeline. His face was pale. His eyes were fixed on nothing. The boy had already been through hell, and now this. I need to get him out of here, Marcus said. Agreed. I've arranged a safe house. Secure location, rotating guards, nobody knows the address except me and 2 people I trust with my life. How do I know I can trust you? Webb met his eyes without flinching. You don't. But right now, I'm the best option you've got. She handed him a piece of paper. Address is there. Memorize it, then burn it. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Don't call anyone. Don't use credit cards or anything that can be traced. Marcus looked at the address. A cabin. Upstate. Middle of nowhere. How long? As long as it takes. We're moving fast on the investigation. Patricia's testimony combined with Holbrook's files and your wife's recording, we have enough to bring down 6 people, but they know we're coming. And desperate people do desperate things. Marcus folded the paper and slipped it into his pocket. Daddy. Jalen's voice was small, fragile. Marcus crossed to him and knelt down. Yeah, little man. Are the bad people going to hurt us? Marcus wanted to lie, wanted to promise that everything was fine, that the monsters were gone, that nothing could touch them. But Jalen had earned the truth. Some people want to stop us from telling what we know, Marcus said quietly. But I'm not going to let them, and there are good people like Detective Webb who are going to help us. We just need to be careful for a little while. Stay somewhere safe until everything gets sorted out. Like hiding, like being smart. Marcus squeezed his son's hands. Your mama hid that evidence because she knew the right time to reveal it mattered. We're doing the same thing. Staying safe until we can make sure the truth comes out. Jalen considered this. Mama was brave. The bravest person I ever knew. I want to be brave like her. Marcus's heart clenched. You already are, Jay. You already are. They packed in 20 minutes. 1 bag each. Essentials only. Clothes, toiletries. Jalen's notebook, the blue box. The box went into Jalen's backpack, pressed against his spine. He wouldn't let it out of his sight. Webb's officers escorted them to an unmarked car. No lights, no sirens. Just a plain sedan that could have belonged to anyone. Marcus drove. The city fell away behind them, replaced by suburbs, then farmland, then forest. Snow-covered trees lined the road, their branches heavy and still. The world felt hushed. Waiting. Jalen fell asleep in the back seat, exhaustion finally winning over fear. Marcus drove through the night. His mind wouldn't stop racing. The ring, the note, the message. We're not done. Who had written it? One of Vincent's associates. Someone from the network Holbrook had uncovered, or someone else entirely. Someone Marcus hadn't even considered. The flash drive sat in his pocket, heavy with secrets he hadn't had time to examine. Holbrook had said it contained patterns. Cases closed too quickly. Evidence that disappeared. A map of corruption that wound through the department like rot through wood. Somewhere in that data was the answer. Somewhere was the name of the person who had desecrated his wife's grave. And when Marcus found them, there would be a reckoning. The cabin appeared just after dawn. Small wooden set back from the road at the end of a winding driveway. Smoke rose from the chimney. Someone had prepared it for their arrival. Inside, the lights glowed warm against the gray morning. Marcus parked and sat for a moment watching. No other cars. No footprints in the fresh snow except those leading from the door. Everything looked secure. He woke Jalen gently. "We're here, little man." Jalen blinked disoriented, then looked out the window. "Where are we?" "Somewhere safe. Come on." They walked to the cabin together, Marcus carrying both bags, Jalen clutching his backpack straps. The door opened before they reached it. A woman stood inside. 60s silver hair cut short, kind eyes set in a weathered face. She wore jeans and a flannel shirt, and she moved with the quiet confidence of someone who'd seen enough of the world to stop being surprised by it. "You must be Marcus." Her voice was warm. "I'm Helen, Webb's aunt. Welcome to my home." Marcus shook her hand. "Thank you for taking us in." "Thank Lorraine. She doesn't ask favors often, so when she does, I pay attention." Helen looked down at Jalen. "And you must be the young man I've heard so much about, the brave one." Jalen glanced up at his father, uncertain. "It's okay," Marcus said. "Helen's a friend." "The bravest," Helen continued, smiling gently. "That's what Lorraine called you. Said you saved evidence that's going to put some very bad people away." Jalen stood a little taller. "Mama told me to." "Smart mama. Smart son." Helen stepped aside. "Come in, both of you. I've got breakfast on the stove." The cabin smelled like bacon and coffee. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. Not the fear, not the grief, but something adjacent to them. A small easing, a moment of peace. They were safe. For now. The days that followed blurred together. Marcus spent hours poring over Holbrook's files, cross-referencing names and dates, building a picture of the corruption that had festered beneath the surface of his department. Jalen played in the snow, explored the woods behind the cabin, helped Helen with chores. Slowly, carefully, the boy began to heal. The nightmares still came. Marcus heard him crying out in the dark, calling for his mother, begging Patricia to stop. But the episodes grew shorter, less frequent. The weight that had pressed Jalen down was lifting piece by piece. On the third day, Webb called. "We arrested 6 more people this morning. 2 judges, a state attorney, and 3 businessmen connected to Vincent's network." Her voice carried a note of grim satisfaction. "Patricia's cooperating fully now. Turns out she knows a lot more than she initially let on." "The person who broke into my house, still working on it. But we have a lead. One of the names in Holbrook's files, a former detective named Ray Cortland. Left the force 5 years ago under suspicious circumstances. Word is he's been doing private security work since then. The kind of security work that involves making problems disappear." Marcus memorized the name. Ray Cortland. "Where is he now?" "We don't know. He dropped off the grid 2 days ago, right after Vincent died. But we're looking." Webb paused. "Marcus, don't do anything stupid. Let us handle this. I'm just asking questions." "You're plotting revenge. I can hear it in your voice." Her tone sharpened. "I understand. Believe me, I do. But if you go after Cortland alone and something happens to you, what happens to Jalen? You're all he has left." Marcus closed his eyes. She was right. He hated that she was right. "Keep me informed," he said finally. "I will. And Marcus, stay safe. We're close to ending this. Don't throw it away now." She hung up. Marcus stood at the window watching Jalen build a snowman with Helen's help. The boy was laughing. Actually laughing, a sound Marcus hadn't heard in months. He made a decision. No revenge. Not now. Maybe not ever. Jalen needed a father, not a vigilante. Denise would have wanted him to choose their son. On the 5th day, Jalen found the card. Marcus had left his jacket over a chair, Holbrook's flash drive still in the pocket. Jalen was looking for his gloves and pulled out the drive by accident. "What's this, Daddy?" Marcus's heart jumped. "That's just work stuff, Jay. Put it back." But Jalen was already examining it, turning it over in his small hands. "Is this about the bad people, the ones who hurt Mama?" Marcus hesitated. He'd been trying to shield Jalen from the details. The scope of the corruption. The names and faces of the men and women who had enabled Vincent's crimes. The depth of the evil that had touched their family. But Jalen had earned the truth. He'd earned the right to understand what he'd helped expose. Yeah, Marcus said quietly. It's about them. Did you find them all? Not yet, but we're getting close. Jalen set the flash drive down carefully. Mama knew, he said. She knew something bad was happening. That's why she made the recording. That's why she left me the code. She was protecting you. She was protecting everyone. Jalen looked up at his father. She couldn't stop them by herself, so she made sure I could. Marcus felt his throat tighten. 6 years old. His son was 6 years old, and he understood things that most adults never grasped. I'm proud of you, Jay. I'm proud of Mama. Jalen picked up the blue box from his backpack. She was scared, but she did it anyway. She wrote everything down. She made sure the truth would come out. He opened the box and pulled out the card, the one with the hidden message, the one that had started everything. I want to keep this forever, Jalen said, so I never forget. You won't forget. But just in case. Jalen traced his mother's handwriting with his finger. So when I'm grown up, I can look at it and remember. Remember how brave she was. Remember that the truth matters. Marcus put his arm around his son. The truth always matters, Jay. Even when it's hard, even when it's scary. The truth is how we honor the people we love. Jalen leaned against his father's side. Do you think Mama can see us from heaven? I think. Marcus paused, choosing his words carefully. I think the people we love stay with us, in our hearts, in our memories, in the lessons they teach us. Like the code. Like the code. Jalen was quiet for a moment. I miss her, Daddy. I miss her too, little man. Every single day. Does it get easier? Marcus considered the question. It gets different. The missing doesn't go away, but it changes. You learn to carry it, to make room for it alongside everything else. He pulled Jalen closer. And you remember that she's not really gone. She's in every brave thing you do, every truth you tell, every time you stand up for what's right. Jalen nodded slowly. She's in the box. Yeah, Jay, she's in the box. The call came on the 7th day. Marcus was outside splitting firewood when his phone buzzed. He checked the screen. Webb. We got him, she said without preamble. Cortland tried to cross into Canada this morning. Border Patrol picked him up on our warrant. Marcus set down the axe. Is he talking? Not yet. But we found evidence in his car. Tools, surveillance equipment, and, Webb paused. A photograph. Of you and Jalen, taken 3 weeks ago outside Jalen's school. The blood drained from Marcus's face. He's been watching us, for weeks. Before Vincent died, yes. Probably building a file, gathering information. Webb's voice hardened. But here's the thing, Cortland wasn't working alone. The surveillance equipment we found military grade, expensive. Someone with resources was funding him. Who? We don't know yet, but Cortland knows. And he's facing enough charges to spend the rest of his life in prison. It's only a matter of time before he starts making deals. Marcus leaned against the woodpile, his mind racing. Someone had been watching them, photographing them, planning something, but they'd been caught. The net was closing. What do you need from me? Your testimony. Jalen's testimony. When this goes to trial, and it will go to trial, you're both going to be key witnesses. Webb paused. Can you handle that? Can Jalen handle that? Marcus looked toward the cabin. Through the window he could see Jalen at the kitchen table drawing something with colored pencils. Helen sat beside him, pointing at the paper, saying something that made the boy smile. We can handle it, Marcus said. Denise didn't raise a coward, and she didn't marry one either. Good, Webb exhaled. It's almost over, Marcus. Another few weeks, maybe a month. Then you and Jalen can go home. Start rebuilding. Home. The word felt strange in his mouth. The house where Denise had died, where Patricia had hurt his son, where someone had left his wife's wedding ring under the Christmas tree. Could that ever feel like home again? One step at a time, Webb said, as if reading his thoughts. First we end this. Then we figure out what comes next. Yeah, Marcus said. One step at a time. He hung up and went inside. Jalen looked up from his drawing. Who was that daddy? Detective Webb. She says things are going well. We might be able to go home soon. Jalen's face flickered with something complicated. Not quite happiness. Not quite fear. Something in between. Home? He repeated. Yeah. Is Patricia going to be there? No, never again. She's going to prison for a very long time. What about the other bad people? They're going to prison too, all of them. Jalen considered this. Good, he said finally. They deserve it. Marcus sat down beside his son and looked at the drawing. It showed 3 figures. A tall man, a small boy, and a woman with curly hair standing slightly apart, surrounded by stars. Is that Mama? Yeah. Jalen pointed to the stars. She's in heaven now, watching us, making sure we're okay. Marcus's eyes burned. It's beautiful, Jay. I'm going to put it in the box, with Mama's card. Jalen carefully lifted the drawing. So all the important things are together. That's a good idea. Jalen opened the blue box and placed the drawing inside, arranging it carefully on top of the handkerchief. Then he closed the lid and held the box against his chest. Daddy? Yeah. Thank you for coming home. The words hit Marcus like a wave. He'd almost been too late. If he hadn't received that email at the airport, if he hadn't trusted his instincts, if he'd waited even one more day. I'll always come home, he said, his voice rough. No matter what. I'll always come home to you. Jalen smiled. It was a real smile, the first one that reached his eyes since before Denise died. I know, Daddy. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Marcus testified on the 4th day. Jalen testified on the 6th with a child advocate beside him and his father watching from the gallery. The boy spoke clearly, calmly. He described the burn on his arm, the threats Patricia had made, the conversations he'd overheard between her and Vincent, the recording his mother had left behind. The defense attorney tried to shake him, suggested he'd misunderstood, suggested he'd been coached, suggested a 6-year-old couldn't possibly be a reliable witness. Jalen looked at the attorney with eyes that had seen too much. My mama told me to write everything down, he said quietly. She told me to remember. She told me the truth matters. I'm just telling the truth. The courtroom was silent. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty, on all counts. Patricia received 35 years. Cortland received life. The judges and attorneys and businessmen who had enabled Vincent's schemes received sentences ranging from 10 to 25 years. The network was dismantled. The corruption was exposed. The truth had won. On the day they returned home, Marcus and Jalen stood together in the driveway, looking at the house. It looked different now. Smaller somehow. Less threatening. Just walls and windows and a roof, a structure, not a prison. Are you ready? Marcus asked. Jalen took his father's hand. Yeah, he said. I'm ready. They walked to the front door together. Inside the house smelled different, clean, neutral. Marcus had hired a service to scrub every surface to remove every trace of Patricia's presence. The Christmas tree was gone. The decorations were packed away. The kitchen counter where the iron had sat was bare. Fresh start. That was the plan. Jalen walked through the rooms, slowly touching walls, opening doors, reclaiming the space that had been taken from him. When he reached his bedroom, he stopped. The blue box sat on his bed. Marcus had placed it there before they arrived, wanting Jalen to find it waiting. Jalen picked it up and held it close. Mama's here, he said softly. I can feel her. Marcus stood in the doorway. Yeah. She's not scared anymore. She's happy. Jalen looked up at his father. She's happy we're okay. Marcus crossed the room and knelt beside his son. We're going to be okay, Jay. It's going to take time. Some days will be hard. Some days we'll miss her so much it hurts. But we're going to get through it. Together. Jalen nodded. Together. He opened the blue box and looked inside. The handkerchief. The card. The drawing he'd made at the cabin. Evidence of love that had outlasted death. Daddy. Yeah. Can we visit Mama at the cemetery? Marcus's heart clenched. They'd restored Denise's grave after the desecration. New sod, fresh flowers, the headstone cleaned and polished. But Marcus hadn't been back since. Of course we can, he said. Whenever you want. Today. Marcus took a breath. Today. The cemetery was quiet in the late afternoon light. They walked together through the rows of headstones, Jalen carrying the blue box, Marcus carrying a bouquet of sunflowers, Denise's favorite. Her grave sat beneath an old oak tree, its branches bare but reaching toward the sky like arms stretched in welcome. The headstone was simple. Denise Marie Jameson, beloved wife and mother. Her love endures forever. Jalen knelt beside it. Hi, Mama. His voice was soft but steady. I'm sorry I didn't come sooner. Things were really hard for a while. But Daddy and I are okay now. The bad people are gone. They can't hurt anyone anymore. He opened the blue box and pulled out the card. I kept it safe. Just like you told me. And I figured out the code. And I was brave. His voice cracked slightly. I was brave like you. Marcus stood behind his son, tears streaming down his face. The police caught everyone, all of them, because of you. Because you left me the recording and the message and everything I needed. Jalen carefully placed the card back in the box. You saved us, Mama. Even though you couldn't be here. You saved us anyway. He leaned forward and pressed his palm against the cool stone. I love you. I'm going to love you forever. And every time I'm scared, I'm going to remember that you were scared too. But you did the right thing anyway. He stood up and took his father's hand. Marcus stepped forward and laid the sunflowers against the headstone. Hey, Denise. His voice was rough, broken. I'm sorry. For all of it. For not being there when you needed me. For not seeing what was happening. For leaving our boy when he needed me most. He wiped his eyes. But I'm here now. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it right. I'm going to raise our son the way you would have wanted. With love. With truth. With courage. He touched the headstone, his fingers tracing the letters of her name. You were the bravest person I ever knew. And you raised a son who's just like you. I see you in him every day. In his eyes. In his heart. In the way he faces his fears and tells the truth even when it's hard. Marcus took a shaky breath. Rest now, sweetheart. We've got it from here. He stepped back. Jalen slipped his hand into his father's. They stood together in the fading light, father and son united by grief and love, and the unbreakable bond of family. The wind rustled through the oak tree's branches, and for just a moment, Marcus could have sworn he heard Denise's voice carried on the breeze like a whisper from somewhere far away. I love you both, forever and always. He squeezed Jalen's hand. Ready to go home. Jalen looked at the grave one last time. Then he looked up at his father and smiled. Yeah, Daddy, I'm ready. They walked back to the car together, leaving the flowers behind, carrying the blue box between them. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. A new chapter was beginning, and this time they would write it themselves. Marcus started the car and pulled out of the cemetery. Jalen beside him, the blue box on his lap. Daddy, yeah, little man, when I grow up, I want to be a police officer, like you. Marcus glanced at his son. Yeah, I want to help people. I want to protect kids who are scared. I want to make sure the bad people get caught." Jalen hugged the box tighter. "Like Mama did. Like you did." Marcus felt pride swell in his chest. His son. His brave, beautiful son. "You can be anything you want, Jay. And whatever you choose, I'll be right there supporting you. Promise." Promise. They drove through the gathering dusk, the road stretching ahead, the future unwritten, but no longer frightening. The darkness was behind them now. What lay ahead was light. And love. And the unshakable truth that real family can never be destroyed. Not by cruelty, not by corruption, not by death itself. Denise had proven that. Jalen had proven that. And Marcus would spend the rest of his life making sure the world never forgot it. The blue box sat between them, worn and weathered and precious beyond measure. Inside it lay the evidence of a mother's love, a love that had reached beyond the grave to save her son. A love that would endure forever. Because the truth always wins. Because courage is stronger than fear. Because the bonds of family can never be broken. And because somewhere in a place beyond sight, but never beyond heart. Denise Marie Jameson was watching over her boys, smiling at peace, eternally proud.